Hi everybody, Steve Rolston here with the Watercolour Westport Stories podcast. And today we are interviewing Jamie. Welcome, Jamie.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you share with our audience a little bit about you.
Thank you.
So I want to open the floor and just have you spend what will seem like 5, 10, 15, like I was saying, you're free to ramble.
Right.
So that your neighbors can get to know you.
Sure. So I'm Jamie. I'm married to Sean. I'm originally from Montreal, born and raised, and have lived there my entire life. This is my first time moving away from the city. Growing up, I grew up in the east end of Montreal to immigrant parents. And my dad had a restaurant, so we were put to work pretty young, getting to work with waitressing. I think I was 11 when I was waitressing at the restaurant on weekends and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Helping out with the family business, and spent a lot of time with my grandmother on my mom's side, and they grew up north of Montreal, up in the Laurentians. So as a child growing up, we got to spend a lot of time up in the Laurentians. One of my great aunts had a cottage on the lake, and my uncle used to go hunting, and my mom used to take us out in the rowboat. So I spent a lot of time outside when I was a kid, and I loved that part of summertime and in the fall when we would head up north and kill a weekend or a week or something hanging out up there. And then from there, you grow up, and I have 3 of my own children, and then with Sean we have my 2 stepchildren as well. So we've got 5 kids between us. Which was a lot of fun during COVID when we had 4 teenagers at home and the 2 dogs, and we're working remotely, so that was a bit of a challenge. And surprisingly, then he proposed after all of that. So I guess if we got through that, that kind of meant that we were kind of going to be able to get through life together. But so grew up in the city and have the kids and just been working and all of that.
So what nationality, if you don't mind me asking?
So my dad is from Greece, and my mom is a mix of Polish and Ukrainian. So at home, learned a little bit of Greek when I was a kid, not enough to have a conversation because my dad's family mostly lived in Belgium, and they all speak French. So I was just encouraged to really learn how to speak proper French instead of the typical Quebecois. But working in my dad's restaurant, the Quebecois was actually kind of important because it was our clientele, so kind of can manage on both sides.
And what kind of restaurant?
Just fast food, like hot dogs and pizzas and poutines and submarines and stuff, which kind of spoiled me because my dad is extremely particular and really was focused on having really good ingredients. And so whenever I went out to eat fast food anywhere else, I was sorely disappointed. Which I guess is helpful because then I don't like to go out to eat fast food anymore. So, but yeah, my dad kind of spoiled me that way. But it was good for all the restaurant customers that would come by. And so he gave up the restaurant. How old was I? Probably about 17 or 18 years old. And now he manages a restaurant in Montreal now, so he doesn't have his own place. But so he's still in the restaurant business, and my 2 nieces now work with him, and they're waitressing on the weekends. So I kind of see the progression of, this is how it is in the family, right? Right. Yeah.
I bet you have a great spirit of hospitality then from all of those
years. Customer service, yeah. My dad, if anything, taught us when we were young, my brother and I, that, everybody is equal, and, you treat everybody the same, and everybody is worthwhile, right? And so it doesn't matter if they're the guy who comes in on the welfare check or the construction worker or the police officer down the street, they all get the same service, right? There's no differentiating between that. And so that was really important to us growing up. We had a lot of immigrant families in the neighborhood as well, and they were just as important as, the guy who lived upstairs. So, yeah. Yeah,
that's a nice story.
Yeah. Huh. And then, after that, what is it? Yeah, so I just started working. I've got we've got the 5 kids between us, so they're 29, 20, almost 22, 21, 19, and almost 16 between us. So I've got the 3 eldest ones. I think Sean mentioned earlier that some of the kids moved out and we downsized in order to move here to Westport. So yeah, so 3 of them are gone. We've got 2 of them left that we share custody with, and they're in Montreal and still going to school and stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
So tell me what you're doing in the marketplace, Jamie.
So I work in transportation and logistics, and I've been doing that for almost 20 years now. I have a bit of a background in finance. I did a lot of accounting when I was younger. Thought it was extremely boring. No offense to any accountants out there. But you become an expert in, 6 months, and no matter what industry you're working in, right? You start a new job, debits, credits, expenses, liabilities, they're all the same, it doesn't change. So when I was commuting all the time to downtown Montreal and coming back, and my kids were young, and it's 3 hours of commuting every day, and then daycare and school drop-offs and all of that, and I was like, I'm done with this. And so I went to see my eldest daughter had a soccer game, and I complained to one of the mommy friends, I really need a job in the West Island of Montreal because I need to cut down on this commuting. And she's like, oh, well, my husband just had lunch with a friend today, and he's looking for someone. I'll pass you along his phone number. So she gave me his phone number, and literally 3 weeks later, I was working in the shipping industry representing a Dutch ship owner, and I didn't know anything. And wow. I couldn't read the emails. I didn't know what the commodities were, and I stayed with them for almost 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So do a lot of traveling. So it's international trade, transportation, logistics. Worked for a ship owner, so a Dutch ship owner for 11 years, and then now I work for a freight forwarder, and so I handle primarily the Great Lakes for vessel agency and husbandry, which is servicing the vessels that come into the Great Lakes and making sure that the vessel itself is taken care of, that all the work is done for them in terms of paperwork and hiring of labor and tugboats and pilotage and all that kind of stuff. And then I also do project and break bulk logistics, which is moving all types of cargo internationally that does not fit in a container.
Oh.
Which is, think machinery, mining equipment, wind turbines, wow. Oil and gas, generators and vessels and all kinds of stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting stuff, actually.
It is. And so to my point of, the boring accounting job, this job is not boring because every day there's something new. There's, always an issue. There's always different people across the world that you're dealing with. And I love that part of my job.
Oh, I bet you do.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, actually.
Mm-hmm. So do a lot of travel for work. All over the place, so I don't travel quite as much as Sean does, but fair share. My favorite is doing all the trade shows. So I love going to the trade shows and all the conferences and all the events. I like to network and socialize with people because I'm more of a people person, which probably comes from my upbringing. I like the connection with sitting down with somebody and having the conversation as opposed to just dealing with them through email or through the phone.
Yes. You've become one of our team's favorite for this because, yes, you are very easy to connect with and communicate with.
Thank you.
Yeah. Huh. Cool.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about when you found out about watercolor.
So we found out about watercolor. So back in 2023, right at the start of summer, Sean slipped and ruptured his Achilles tendon. And so that put all of our summer holidays on hold. Well, they were all canceled. Let's face it, they weren't on hold. And then my birthday's in September. So by September, he finally was off the crutches and he was just in a boot. And so I was just thinking, we're staying home for my birthday. We'll make dinner, do something on the patio with the kids or whatnot. And he had planned already to come out to Westport and go to the Cove for dinner. And we stayed overnight there in the inn and live music and whatnot. And the only condition was that I had to drive. Because obviously he couldn't with the boots. So we came up to Westport and we had a really nice evening at the Cove and it was, really nice. And as we were leaving town, drove down Concession and saw one of your sandwich boards. And Sean was like, oh, there's a new neighborhood there. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever, right? Like keep driving. And it's a 3-hour drive back to Montreal. But he took down all the information from the sandwich board. And once we got to the 401, he was already on your website looking at the houses and stuff, and he signed up for the newsletter, and so he was getting all the newsletters, and he was constantly forwarding them to me all the time. And I was like, yes, these houses are really nice, but we're not quite there yet, but we can think about it for a few years down the line. And then our middle daughter decided that she wanted to move to Toronto to attend Humber College. And so that was going to vacate yet another bedroom. And so now we have this huge house with only, the 2 kids at home part-time. And so I was like, you know what? Okay, fine. I'm sick of you talking about this all the time. And the kids are, they're all leaving. So let's just go and see it. So between Christmas and I think actually it was just after New Year's, we came up and we visited the model homes, and we visited 3 of them. We did the Kingston, the Cataraqui, and the Frontenac. And like a month later, we had a deposit down on the Kingston, and it was done. Like, it was super quick. We fell in love immediately. And we've already been to this neighborhood, right? So when my kids were little, because I spent so much time up north, and I was a single mom at the time, what kind of vacation can you afford with 3 kids was camping, right? And I wanted my kids to have an attachment to the outdoors, and they were in Girl Guides and Cubs and all that kind of stuff. And so I said, oh, let's go camping. And so every summer we camped for at least 2 weeks at Charleston Lake here. We've done Murphy's Point, we've done Bon Echo, we've done Frontenac. And so I was accustomed to being in this area, and I love this part of Eastern Ontario. And then when Sean and I got together, we would camp and kayak up and down the Rideau. In particular, Davis Lock is probably our favorite one. And yes, I won't tell anybody that. But then so we've been coming out to this area. And so one of my colleagues a few years ago, probably going back 7 years now, he had a boat, and he used to go up and down the Rideau. And I told him where we were camping because we were going to be off on holidays at the same time. And he says, hey, you should check out a little community called Westport. You and Sean would love it, because he works with both of us. And so I was like, okay. So Sean's sitting at the campground, and he's looking at the map of Ontario. It circles Westport. Oh, it's only 20 minutes from here. Let's check it out. And so we did. And, we went to the brewery, and the next time we came up, we brought the kayaks, and, there's public showers. So when you're camping, what do? Well, you use the public shower, and then you can dress up and you can go out for dinner, right? And so we've done the vineyard, and we've done the brew pub, and, we've done Tangled Garden. And so it was an easy way to kind of say, we love this place. And so when we visited the house, we're like, well, we already know the neighborhood. We love this part of Eastern Ontario. We've been to Westport. We know a lot of it already. So this just fits. Right? And for us, that was really important. It fit us and our lifestyle.
Huh. It's so fascinating hearing people's stories of how, we get to build homes where people will live. And before we got married, my wife lived in the Glebe, and I would walk around there, and it was nice seeing the lights on and people in the homes, and those historic homes that were 100 years old. I always thought, someday 100 years from now, people will be walking around. And that's what I really fell in love with, was a community in Niagara-on-the-Lake where people lived in a new walkable old town that had been created. And that's what got me back into home building, is wanting to create a new quote unquote old town like the village Niagara in Niagara-on-the-Lake.
Oh, nice.
Because this gentleman, John Hawley, had created a restaurant, Shoppers Drug Mart, CIBC, bank, and I can't remember what else, some stores. And that was sort of a hub, because this was at the edge of town, but all these beautiful, beautiful craftsman style homes and Georgian homes and revival homes, all these different styles were blended in so seamlessly and effortlessly by this amazing world famous architect, Andreas Dwani, who created the first one called Seaside 40 years ago now. And John Hawley did one about 20 years ago in Niagara-on-the-Lake that I got to walk through, see all the pocket parks, see all the monster front porches. And the houses are close to the road and close to the sidewalk. And it's like what Church Street looks like. You know, Church Street in Westport. That's that typical 100-year-old village look that most cities have. And now we get to be a part of, you know, bringing new homes and new life and new possibilities to people. So it's fascinating to hear people's backstory of why they wanted to come.
Yeah, and you know, that's one of the things that we love about this community here at Watercolour is, you know, it's all the front porches. It's, you know, the land lot sizes are a decent size, so that you don't have all these houses smushed and all on top of each other like in some places in the city, where you walk into a neighborhood and everybody's just so crowded and nobody has space. Here we have the space, but we've got the porches, and I always told Sean I wanted a house with a wraparound porch, and so we've got a nice sized porch on our house that we'll be able to sit outside and talk to the neighbors, and you know, you're close enough to each other to be able to develop the relationships with your neighbors, because everybody is outside. And I mean, listen, we moved in October. We didn't even get to spend the summer here or the spring yet, but you know, October was fantastic. I mean, the first week or so that we moved in was the Oktoberfest festival in the community. So we got to meet a lot of our neighbors just there. We got pulled into Patrick's parents' backyard, right, with Beth and Steve, and they were just so welcoming. It's like, oh, sure, why don't you just join us and look at what we've done with our garden, and you know, sit down and have a drink, and oh, here's some other neighbors, and let's just have this wonderful conversation. It was such a nice evening. Like Sean and I went home and we're like, we love it here. Like everybody's just so nice and welcoming, and it was effortless, really. I mean, the conversation was effortless. The people were just so nice. Like you don't get that in the city. People, I mean, you might have some nice people, but you don't know that they're nice because nobody stops to talk to each other, right? Nobody will pass each other on a trail and say hello. Here you stop and chat for 20 minutes, right? And so we've already seen the community come together, not just with Oktoberfest, but even with the Santa Claus Day parade. Like that literally passed right in front of our house. Like we just sat there and with the dogs and watched the parade go by. It was amazing. Halloween was awesome. We had so many kids. We just, and lucky it was a beautiful day. We just sat outside on the front porch and handed out candy. I was like, this is amazing. All little kids with their little costumes. It was awesome, right? And so that's really what we wanted as you know, as a couple now who are moving into that next phase of our life cycle, right? I mean, we had our own kids and we were out for, you know, Halloween with them and doing everything with the kids, and now we are, you know, now it's just us half the time. And so, you know, we want to still feel part of something, right? It's important to feel part of your community, and I find that Watercolour is really able to give that. And yes, we still fit in. Like our houses are new, and you know, like Sean said earlier, you know, we don't want to have to take care of, like, while we walk through the village, and I love these old homes, these Victorian style colonial homes are beautiful. Yes. I don't want the headache of the maintenance. So, you know, the design of the homes in our neighborhood really fit, again, the same word, with the rest of the community here as a whole, but they're newer and they're more energy efficient, and they're just, there's no maintenance, right? I mean, they're just, they work, and you know, all we have to do is some gardening, which is actually pleasurable.
Yes, you don't have enormous gardens and properties to maintain.
That's true. Yeah. But good, decent size, right? I mean, they're the perfect size, honestly. You can entertain like we did in Beth's backyard, right?
Yes, yes. So for those of you watching, Patrick, Steve and Beth's son, is doing our recording of all of our podcasts and our YouTube videos.
Sorry, he's in the room, so you know.
So yes, so we can't help but point to Patrick. So how have you found getting to know local people from Westport?
So that's been awesome. So, you know, just I was encouraged by the lady Dawn at City Hall to join some of the local Facebook pages, because that will be helpful in learning about the community, finding out what's going on. And so I just did, right? I went on, and it's the only social media I have, and so I just checked, you know, joined a few groups, and found out, number one, about the Pie Bar, which is run by Stacy. And you know, we can get, our maple syrup and our sourdough bread, and she makes amazing croissants, and, you go every Friday and you pick up your order, and, it's been amazing. And she's a lovely woman. She's so much fun to chat with when we go to pick up our bread. And then we're at the Cove probably every 10 days or so. And so, we know the wait staff, we love chatting with Seamus and with Terry and Mary. They always come by the table now because they recognize us, right? We go to the Lost Penny, we know the waitress there. So she asks about my business trip, even though it's maybe been 3 weeks since the last time we've been there. She remembers, she was going on a business trip the last time she was here, how was it? And, we can have those conversations. We've met people in the street walking the dogs, stop and chat. The lady at, the Canada Post Office, and the hardware store where Sean likes to take the dog because he gets some dog treats and whatnot, right? But so the community itself, there's some really nice people in the community that you're able to chat with just by, walking around. And we don't need to drive anywhere because everything is so walkable. And so you're constantly bumping into people, and, when you see the same face 3 or 4 times, well, first of all, everybody's nice, so you always say hello. And eventually you just have like mini little conversations, which has been pretty cool.
Wow. That's so nice to hear.
Yeah.
Huh. So tell me about working remotely.
Working remotely. I've been working remotely for a while because I report to an American office and Sean reports to an office out in Vancouver. So we do work remote if we're not traveling for work. And so we always work from home. So we've got the office set up here, and we've got the fiber internet, and we're not sharing it anymore, so it's just ours. So it's been great to be able to have that. And so the internet works great. We have a lot of Teams calls and Zoom meetings and all of that. And, the only thing I'll say is that working remotely here, and I hope my boss isn't watching this ever, is that it's easier to pull away when we're here than when we're working in the city, for example. Because here we're going to be like, oh, well, it's kind of nice out and the sun's popping out, and let's just take 20 minutes and grab the dogs and go down to the trail, right? And we should like pop over to the bank or pick up something from the grocery store, or, hey, we've got an hour, it's lunchtime, let's zip up to Foley, we'll drive because it'll only take 3 minutes, and we can do a 45-minute walk with the dogs on the trails and still come back, have a sandwich, and we've only been gone for an hour.
Wow.
So that has been amazing that we've been able to incorporate that into our work day and still get all of our work done. It's just, I find that we're more productive working here than we are working in Montreal, which sounds kind of silly, but it really is true. And we're working remotely from here. We're in the middle of nowhere, really. It's the middle of Eastern Ontario, surrounded by nature, but we're so close to everything that's important for us as professionals. We've got 3 international airports. We've got Toronto. If you want to drive 3 hours to Pearson, you can take the VIA train, which I've already done, was seamless, really.
Yes.
Ottawa Airport, Montreal Airport, if you want to connect through Montreal, which is also connected to with VIA. We've got the 401, which is, you can drive pretty much anywhere. So, we do, because we work in transportation, there's a lot of ports on Lake Ontario. We've got the city, we've got the airports, we've got the train. So working remotely has been really easy and seamless from here. We're not really inconvenienced at all working out of Westport.
Because this is what we hope will happen over time, is like another couple here, Andrew and Julie, that you may have met. They are remote workers, as are many families, as we're hoping more and more remote working families might discover it. Because, when you ruthlessly eliminate hurry and you feel calm, I find people are more productive.
Absolutely.
And Richard, Florida, we'll give a shout out to Richard, Florida in this podcast too. He, with the Seaside Institute, one of the first communities like ours, he was interviewed a number of years ago talking about Boomtown, or Zoomtown to Boomtown, how any little town like Westport could become a remote working hub for the creative class. Mm-hmm. And his book talking about the creative class of remote workers. It's like 60% of the population work in the service economy in one way, shape, or other. and many of them can work remotely. So why not try and be a corporate town where people feel relaxed?
Exactly. No, it's true. I mean, you know, we come home here and immediately as we walk into the house, within 5 minutes or less even, it's like, all that stress is gone, right? It's amazing how, I don't know, maybe the air smells different or something. Well, it does because there's no cars and pollution. But, you know, it really is calming to come here. Like a couple weeks ago, we were like, okay, so we've got this whole list of things to do. And we're like, okay, well, we better tackle it. We're going to get up early and we're going to get all this stuff done. And we drove to Perth, which is 25 minutes away. We went to 3 banks, and then we decided, hey, let's stop at the coffee shop and have a cinnamon bun and, you know, whatever. And then 25 minutes back here, and then we went to pick up our bread from Stacy, and then we walked to the BMO bank and did our banking over there as well. And then we came home and we looked at the clock and it was like, not even half a day had gone by. We're like, what are we going to do the rest of today? Because, you know, this was our plan for the day. So we ended up going to Foley with the dogs and, you know, walking the trails. But, you know, conversely, when we're in the city, when we're in Montreal, I had a list of 4 things to do and I accomplished 2 of them in the same amount of time that we did everything over here 2 weeks prior. And I was already fed up with the traffic and, you know, just the delays and the lights and the inefficiency of being in the city in comparison. Right. And so I only did half my errands because I was frustrated, which I don't get here, right? So it's been really nice.
Well, quite frankly, I hope your boss does watch this, and then he tells all his staff
to work from home.
Hey, go to Westport. It's real calm there, because that's what everyone says. It's funny. We hosted people Wednesday, and one of my young friends was sitting on the back porch, and he said, "I just feel this calm, like I feel peace." And that's the number one thing, is people talk about a feeling, the watercolor feeling, and it's remarkable that people feel that. There's 5 lakes or views of water on the 5 different approaches into Westport. And my friend who grew up here, he would tell me all this before I bought the land and started this, but he's helping us with the land planning. And I really think it is kind of the center of, I won't say the universe, but it's amazing that it's equidistant Toronto, Montreal. Mm-hmm. You know, Ottawa's not that far away.
Yeah,
Kingston's right there.
Yeah, Kingston's 45 minutes. Ottawa's barely an hour and a half, depending on what part of the city you're going to, right? I mean, I went to Gatineau to renew my passport the other week, and that was, you know, there and back, and it was nothing, really. Yeah. And it's all country roads, so you're not stuck on these big highways with all the traffic and truck traffic and noise and congestion. It's such a peaceful drive, honestly, through all the farmland. So long as you have your Google Maps on, it's good.
Yes, yes. Country roads are much better, but yes, Google Maps helps.
Definitely.
Yes. Huh. Well, Jamie, I want to thank you for making time, because that is people's most valuable asset, their time, to be with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this. It's been great, and can't wait to see what all our other neighbors are up to and what their stories are, and getting to connect with more of them as the spring and summer roll in here.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today for the Watercolour Westport Stories podcast. We hope you've been inspired. You can like, follow, share our podcast with others through YouTube and Facebook, and connect with us through our website at watercolorwestport.com.